Hello and welcome back to Read Becca for my weekly chatty catch up on everything I read, everything I'm currently reading, and everything I'm looking forward to reading. And it's just gotten really dark outside, so hopefully the lighting is not too terrible. I turned on the light, but we're supposed to get storms today. It was lovely and gorgeous until a few minutes before I sat down to film, of course. So hopefully we'll get through this without being pitch black or getting blown out of here with a storm. So we will see. I finished a couple of things this week though, so let's talk about books. First, I did finish Zouno Fusenyasan, which, as far as I can kind of reverse engineer the title, it's something like elephant bookseller, not bookseller, balloon seller. She was a bookseller. And this was just kind of cute and sweet. As I talked about in my TBR, I'm working on learning Japanese very, very basically. So this was not a read for content. I don't know really most of the words in here so far. As far as I can kind of gather in the story, he is traveling around and selling these balloons to the other animals. At points he is happy, at points he feels like he can't do anything right. I don't really know why. At points he laughs with the other animals, and that's about all I got out of it. So, but I did run through and translate it phonetically, basically, into the characters to their sounds. So that was the goal of this project. So I did read through a couple times and did well. I wrote it down and then actually checked my work and made it through with only a couple mistakes. So I was very happy with that. The other book I got in Japanese is a lot longer, a lot more text. So I'll be looking forward to trying that one. So then I read People Change by Vivek, Shraya. And I overwhelmingly did like this. It's an essay really on the topic of change, of the fact that who we are, our identity, as how we see ourselves changes over time, often very dramatically, and we very literally are not the same person as at a cellular level. Our cells are constantly replenishing and replacing. And so she's talking through that in a connection to transness, but not necessarily or specifically from a trans perspective. So I really enjoyed the aspects of that she drew from the ways that beauty culture and society push for altering oneself, but then at the transness aspect, very often that social pressure is the opposite way. And so that conflict between the two things is really carried out very well. And trying to normalize the fact that people have certain views of themselves and the way that they can alter themselves to achieve that should be encouraged and welcomed. And so I think that was done very, very well. What I didn't like about this as much is that I feel like she was kind of focused on things that for me aren't really a problem, or she was making the argument that certain things are really put pressure on, and I don't really feel that. So I think this is from her perspective, that's her personal experience, but she speaks in a way that says this is a thing that's broadly happening to everyone, and it needed a little more nuance to that. So she does talk about the masculine feminine dichotomy, and that a lot of things changes bodily that are drastic are kind of heralded when it comes to masculine presentation, and feminine presentation is kind of the opposite. For feminine people, where's the line between being real and being fake, between being on board and going overboard? Is waxing the hair off your body authentic? Is spending hours in a salon every few months to get your roots done on board? Why aren't we fighting for autonomy instead of authenticity? And I will come back to that part. Unfortunately, autonomy is often conflated with and critiqued as making choices that seemingly uphold white, sexist, fatphobic, and ableist beauty standards. So when feminine people aren't under attack for being fake, we're charged with perpetuating the standards that oppress us. Although it's important for each of us to consider our complicity in relation to oppressive systems, this is an impossible binary to be locked into. So I wholeheartedly agree with that last part. But the question of why aren't we fighting for autonomy instead of authenticity? I think we can and should fight for both of those things. And the difficulty I had here in kind of getting on board, she says on board a lot above for being not going overboard with things. But in terms of the authenticity, she seems to only conflate that with not wearing makeup, not dyeing your hair is authentic. But I totally disagree with that take. I mean, I think that being authentic is presenting yourself in the way that is true to yourself, true to your own intrinsic view of yourself. I think that's authenticity. And the idea that inherently dyeing your hair is fake, if it's done out of social pressure, yes. So things like that did come up quite a bit. And there is another section here that I wanted to read that extends that idea. Under these conditions, is it possible for us to really ever know what we like and value in relation to our appearance? What changes would we make in how we present ourselves outside of capitalist and social pressures? So totally on board with that, totally agree. And that's the complexity here of what she's trying to get across, is how much external pressure there is. But then she goes on to continue with boasting about not using a filter, #NoFilter, on photos posted on social media is kind of like boasting you're lazy. So I'm not on board with that at all. If the appearance of the subject of a photo can be enhanced as defined by said subject, or if the overall quality of a photo can be improved by a boost in saturation, a tighter crop, and yes, adding a vintage or poppy filter, why not use the time and tools to make that modification? The implication seems to be that the absence of a filter makes the appearance of the subject more real, and as a result, the photo is better. But every photograph is a construction. The subject is always mediated through technology and the gaze and choices of the photographer. This is partly why selfies are unsettling and trivialized. In a selfie, the subject isn't mediated by a professional photographer. The subject is audaciously the photographer. The gaze and the gazer are one. Yeah, the dominant argument against filters or apps that shrink noses and tummies is that some people go overboard by making themselves unrecognizable. Such arguments are also made about physical alterations like lip fillers. Incidentally, all of these criticisms are wielded to invalidate trans bodies. So I agree wholeheartedly with that last part, but she seems to be overlooking that both of those things, the focus on no filter, she is focusing on no filter being potentially bad or lazy, rather than that if a person is explicitly boasting about it, then they're doing that out of external pressure. And whether it is wearing too much makeup or whether it is posting no filters and boasting about it, both of those can come from bad places of external pressure, where you're not actually presenting your intrinsic self. Whether it's a filter or a surgery, you should be able to pursue that if it's an intrinsic desire to present the you that you truly feel represents yourself. But they're not inherently bad either. They're neither good or bad. They're agnostic. So, I personally have never used a filter. I just don't care to do that. And that doesn't make me, well, maybe it does make me lazy. I don't know, but I don't feel that I need that or want that. I don't have any desire to present myself in that way. So again, is that authenticity or is that autonomy? She does specifically say we should be pushing for autonomy. So if my autonomous choice is to make a lazy decision, isn't that what we should be on board with? If my autonomous choice means I don't identify myself as being a person who is seen through filters, shouldn't I be able to make that choice? And isn't that the authentic version of me as well? Because that's how I want to be presented. So I think this missed the boat a little bit in talking about it in a black and white way where it can only be interpreted either or, rather than kind of looking at the more nuance that, yeah, these things are derived from external social pressures and can express in really negative ways either direction. So yeah, I that kind of lost me. The other thing that I think this failed to tackle is the fact that a lot of the people that she's trying to address are not people who change a lot. Like, when we look at, previous generations, you think of your elderly mom or dad, they didn't change for years or decades. My dad, when he shaved his mustache after I think 25 years of having the same hair, same mustache, that was a massive change, right? And through this whole essay, Shraya is pointing out like how changeable she is, how constantly changeable. And that's not the person that needs to be convinced of this message and of the reality that people can express themselves through their body and bodily changes. And that we should accept that because people are varied. For people who are very static, that's not going to be a very convincing argument. So I think overall, this was actually great. I feel like I've been overly maybe critical in kind of my commentary about it, but I didn't really enjoy this. It is convincing in many ways in getting across her perspective about this. I just think that it's probably not going to reach the hands of the people that kind of truly need it, but it is a very relatable account of someone who is very changeable in all aspects of life, and that people need to be accepting of that in the way that people express themselves, the way that people portray themselves to the world. So did very much enjoy this. Then that's what I finished. So on to my in progress stack. So I will share Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfeld as one of the normal books. And then quickly, that one's short. I realized I'm reading a lot of big books. I was kind of not concerned. I've read a lot of short stuff. And so in the back of my mind, I was like, man, I really, after all my focus the previous couple of years to read longer stuff on a regular basis, I'm surely getting behind on that. And then I realized I have finished 3 over 500 page books, and my in progress stack, I have 4 over 500 page books that are in progress currently. So I don't really think I need to worry about not reading long books. I have made no progress on Byzantium. I started Babel. I'm maybe a third of the way through that one. I'm maybe a half through this one, Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. And I'm maybe 2/3 or 3/4 through The Best of Worlds, SF Volume 2. So I think I'm doing fine on a million things that I'm reading that happen to be big chunky books. I am also audiobooking Siren Queen and by Nevo, and I'm ebooking The Thick and the Lean by Shauna Porter. And that one I will hopefully finish today. I was kind of hoping to have it finished already for this wrap up, but that's fine. I'm gonna film a standalone review of that one anyway. So that is all the books. As far as watching stuff this week, I did finish up basically all in one go Wellmania, and I think it's an Australian show that's on Netflix, but either way, it may just be a Netflix show that happens to feature a lot of Australians. But it has kind of this fun premise where this food blogger is up for potentially a cooking competition show to host it, and that is not a big element of this, other than kind of as the driver for what she's trying to accomplish. But she happens to have traveled from the US back home to Australia, short-term-ish, and she's kind of hoping to fly through, and in fact winds up losing her green card and has to get it back by proving she's fit to go back to the US after kind of having had bad health. She's sort of a party girl, she eats a lot. Yeah, so she's not been taking care of herself at all, and she has to turn that around. So it's sort of this almost boot campy style aspect to the show where she is running around desperately trying things, and she makes a lot of bad choices about what to try, really. But yeah, it's kind of a disaster woman show. Very fun and entertaining, very comedic. I really enjoyed it. So that was season 1, though. I think it definitely ends with things that you would want to see continued on. So I think it's got to be a continuing series, and unfortunately was too short for me because they're very short episodes. So I'll be looking forward to more of that. I think that's it for watching, other than Love is Blind is wrapping up, so I'll check in on that one next week. I think that's it. My week was great and quiet. One of my friends is moving, so we had our last D&D game here on Easter. That was really fun. And otherwise it's been pretty quiet but very warm, so I've been trying to spend time outside because it's kind of in that, like, it's weirdly summery. It was over 80 as the high is basically all of this week, which is still sort of palatable here for temperatures. I know many places that is like full-on summer, but we get frequently over 100. It's been allergy central every week for the past month, and this only made it worse. So temperatures are going to drop after the storms today, I think. But yeah, my AC has been on all week already in April, so not great. Anyway, so I think that's it for my week. For recommendations, I'm going to point you to Martha from Self-Righteousness. Definitely check out the channel. She's very undersubscribed, and really enjoyed this video kind of combining the ideas of storytelling and Trans Girl April, and who perpetuates stories, how stories propagate and continue on, and assuring those stories do continue to carry on. So I really enjoyed that. Nice quick video. Definitely go subscribe because the channel is like way too small for the quality of videos. So definitely go check that one out. So that is it for me today. Thank you so very much for watching. You're making it very hard to read this morning, buddy. Ooh. How are you? Buddy? You wanna come say hi? Maybe? Come on. Hey, buddy. You look sweet. Huh? You come say hi to me? Hello, sweetie. You right? Huh? Hi there. Hello. It is supposed to be horribly rainy today, but it's obviously not. So I mean, we were enjoying sunshine in the morning.